Next up is a very interactive part, a panel discussion. And for that panel discussion, I would like to invite Antanas Guoga, a member of the European Parliament representing Lithuania, Mantas Katinas, General Manager of Invest Lithuania, Yekaterina Rojaka, DNB Chief Economist at DNB Baltics, Vytautas Karalevičius, SpectroCoin co-founder and CEO, and Rytis Bieliauskas, Chief Technology Officer of CoinGate. And to moderate this discussion, I would ask my partner, Ilya Lauts.
Okay, so great to see as many people at the end of the conference, which is sometimes not the case. So I hope we have actually fun in this discussion. It's going to be as interactive as it could get, so please follow that. I probably will skip on introductions because Mindaugas did a good job, and we have a really nice mix here. So we have the regulations guys, we have the startups who actually do business, we have the banks that apparently are important players in the domain. So if you allow me to ask first, Antanas, you are like from European Parliament, and apparently it's known for regulating everything down to the shoe sizes that you have to wear, etc. So what is your feeling is the European level view on the Bitcoin?
Yeah, I can speak about my committee, which is quite important, Internal Market and Income Protection Committee, which this file is at the moment, and which the chair of the committee is Vicky Ford from the Conservatives of the UK. So a lot that we heard from Her Majesty's office today is probably correlated in terms of philosophy of the thinking from the top of the committee. But then, you know, the European Parliament has a lot of colorful characters and people have different opinions about certain issues. My position is aligned with the Conservatives, and I feel that position is very liberal in terms of economics, although now that there is a big shift in terms of encryption, and this is the biggest threat that could really hurt the evolution of digital currencies. If there's the fear of terrorism-related activity through encryption, so this is a bit of a challenge for us. But I'm still very confident that we can get through, and I'm involved directly with this file as a shadow rapporteur. We will see how it all pans out, and how this file is developed in the future, and how other committees and how the European Parliament finds it. But at the moment, I feel it's positive, and we have probably the majority at our committee's level to make sure that we do have some directive that makes sense, and that member states' parliaments have some indication of how Europe wants to go. But we do have a referendum in the UK, and if the UK drops out, I mean, all those parliamentarians, including the head of the committee, leaves the parliament the next day. So things are, it will really, in terms of digital currencies, it will really, really hurt Europe. And in terms of liberal economic policies, UK leaving will really be a big loss, because then we have the French, who have a very different opinion in terms of closing and regulating and socialistic policies of the government being in charge of everything. I mean, not even allowing Uber, so we could not talk about bitcoins in France. You know, using Uber and then paying with bitcoins would be a policy that I would always propose. You know, personally, look, it's lots of people, lots of opinions, lots of people see the world different, and obviously probably the more colleagues who have practiced politics for a very long time, you know, they love the government hand and everything, and lots of different authorities. I would definitely like the environment of non-regulation for the moment and observation. That's what I try to always propose. That would be my recommendations, and I would do that. So we should observe for as long as possible to let the market and the industry develop, and maybe come up with some recommendation type of instruments. That would be the best thing, and that would allow things to really progress and prosper, and startups to really develop. If we do regulate stringently or outlaw it, it will definitely not be fun.
Okay, it's great to hear that kind of position. So my question to Ekaterina. Now, apparently you represent a conservative group of business, well, in a good way. I'd rather have my bank conservative as opposed to playing new, like fancy and shiny toys. Yeah, at least for now, because it's way too important. What's the dominant view in the banking sector? Are you like skeptical, curious, pro, positive, negative?
Well, I believe that the first and immediate reaction of the traditional banker to Bitcoin and blockchain is the F word, from frustration to fascination.
Oh, really?
Somewhere in between. So it wasn't the F word that you actually thought of. But it actually depends on whom you are talking. If you are talking to a risk officer, that will be, really very conservative point of view. If you're talking to banker who is involved in IT, well, mostly fascination. And if you're talking about to CEO of banks, usually frustration. So I really loved the picture from Pierre, I believe, with the lions and armadillo, because it's our situation pretty much. We do believe that the new technologies could have really good opportunities for the banking sector too. Because recently, what were the main trends for the bankers? Higher regulation, zero to negative interest rates that decreased profitability very harshly, and extraordinary competition, not only from our peers, but also from outsiders, from FinTechs. And all of that calls for higher efficiency and cost cutting. If it is that blockchain can offer, I believe the banks would be definitely in. On the other hand, we also see that, well, we are living in the most regulated area of economy in the world. And I believe that we will be staying there. So I actually think that the new technologies, what we will see in the future, that will be merger between the banks and the fintechs, some kind of integration, right? Because we will be still regulated, both of us. Whether we will be still put in the box, whether this box would be bigger, maybe with the transparent walls, but still the regulated box. So I think that at least for now, bankers are pretty much thinking of, well, there's our opportunities, but what exactly opportunities are, it's a little bit fake. But banks, on the other hand, start investing. More than I believe that worldwide it's 40 plus banks that are investing very actively into the new technologies. But it's, for now, very much similar to shooting of the moving target. We do not know. Maybe we will get the apple of it, but maybe not. So we definitely need the investment strategy, and to have the strategy, we need to understand what are the main challenges and what are the main opportunities here.
Now I'm curious on your personal opinion. I understand you have to speak for your banks quite carefully. Your personal opinion, you're a chief economist. What's your personal view? How much the Bitcoin is going to affect the traditional banking business in the next, say, 10 years? Moderately, a little, much, like your personal view?
Being an economist, not the banker in traditional point of view, I believe that all this disruption could really bring economy to the better place. So I believe that it may be not the Bitcoin itself, but it may be the technology beneath.
Yeah, so it's going to change your business dramatically, or just
dramatically? Absolutely. That will not be an evolution in some places. An evolution most probably in more traditional and credit-wise advisory services. And that's the fields that the banks could strengthen and should invest into, knowing the very competitive environment. But the private banking, we're now already providing IT services, IT products mostly. Right. iPhone, mobile apps, really good way to go. And I think that in private sector, we will definitely see the revolution, and this revolution is already coming.
What do you think, what do you see as a first specific sector where is the biggest existing immediate threat for the banks from this cryptocurrencies, blockchain, Bitcoin?
Well, it's payments, of course, but for the banks, I think the opportunities and threats are coming really alongside. And something that we can grasp as an opportunity here could be really turn a threat in the future.
Right. Okay. So now to the other side of the business is probably like this big, because I'm very curious to hear from guys who are like practically developing the businesses that potentially could change the whole banking industry dramatical way. So I'm curious, so like, what's your personal experience? Like, could you describe a little bit your business, because I find it fascinating, and just like what exactly you see as the opportunity for yourself, like what exactly you want to build.
So I represent my company, which is SpectraCoin. What we do, we provide our all-in-one solution for Bitcoin, because we perceive Bitcoin more as a protocol, as we email is a protocol to send information in the same way that Bitcoin is a protocol to send the value. So we perceive our business kind of a gateway to the Bitcoin network in the same way as a Gmail is for the email, because most of the people are able to use Bitcoin by themselves and run their own node and have their own wallets, while it's complicated. And by the same way, we can do the same thing with email, run their own server and so on. But these people use Gmail for simplicity. Therefore, we developed SpectraCoin for simplicity of usage of Bitcoin. And SpectraCoin is mostly about the payments. And like talking about the banks and what we do, so we are trying actually to capture the payment side, especially the peer-to-peer payments and payments for the small people. But in my eyes, and what actually I do personally as a PhD student in cryptocurrency, I perceive actually a bit another threat for the banking as it is now. Is more about the clearing settlement of transactions, because we are also like working with Swift, like the company which actually the organization which does it like every transaction, either it's a payment or either it's securities in the world, and like we are helping them to assist the impact and possibility of using the blockchain for the settlement. And to make it short, the idea is like now when you exchange the stocks or any securities, it usually takes at least 3 days, T+3 for settlement. By having it instant, delivery versus payment like in the 0 seconds, which means that the banks will have like, they don't have like this benefit of holding the cash of people for 3 days. So we actually will lose the capital which we can make the profit of just by making, let's say, the arbitrary lag when the transaction is settled. So in my eyes, it's actually, and even for payments, it's even the same way, because for banks it's a benefit, and like for any company which is a monopoly, to postpone the payment as long as possible, because when you have more capital on hand, and the highest risk is when you have like instant settlements. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin blockchain or SEPA. The quicker the settlement is, the less time you have the money on hand. So that's probably the highest risk for the banks. While the banking business probably wouldn't change in the long term.
Right. So now, okay, thank you. I appreciate it. That's a very interesting business model, and apparently I do believe that will change the world at one day. Now, before I go to the next startup, maybe I'm curious in the, again, coming back to the regulations like government side. So what I'm curious is, apparently you represent the Lithuanian government agency that is supporting new businesses, innovations, investments. What is your view specifically on that FinTech narrow domain? Like, do you see opportunities for Lithuania? Are you taking any supportive or totally opposite, like not supportive steps? Can you please elaborate on that a little bit?
So the main angle is for us is to understand the competitive edge of the country and try to take a look what is the tremendous opportunities in the new business area. And we already saw that Lithuania have some substantial competence in FinTech. If you take a look, we have already 3 banks from North who are doing a lot of the product development in Vilnius. We also have Barclays from UK. We have the few Lithuanian startups. So we believe that we have about 5,000 or 10,000 people who are already working in the banking and intersection in FinTech. So as usually, the first attraction point for investors is to say that we already have the competence around. And the next thing you'll need some investor who is on the edge. So the person or the capital who already knows what to do, they just take this talent and try to build something new. And the next thing what's very important is Marius and central bank is very important, because if you try to establish something new, the state must be very flexible in that. And I like the expression that small is beautiful. I've heard it today. Lithuania have the potential to become more flexible than the bigger states. And we can collect all the people in this hall who can make all decisions about the flexibility in different industries. And most of them we know just personally. You can meet them in the bar per week. So that's a good opportunity. The next thing, you just need to collect the bright people who understand the future and try to expand the ability to understand what the next. And personally, I worked in the telco for 10 years, and I remember 10 years ago when the board members of the big telco companies was laughing out of Skype. And even some of them tried to replicate it locally and try to make some software. Even from this point, it was already a bad idea because you have just 5 programmers instead of Skype who have like 500 or 200. And we understood that this is the different business model, but it took 7 or 10 years to understand that it's happening. And now you see that in telco businesses, the voice services as itself is already diminished to a small proportion of the profit. So from this perspective, it's very natural to take a look at the banking industry and understand in which saturation point now is FinTech. So I'm quite sure that banks won't disappear, but the profits will go down and the market share will go down also.
Okay, so how would you describe Lithuania's climate in Lithuania with respect to Bitcoin-related companies and investors? Friendly, like skeptical?
The Bitcoin is, I would say, it's a bit too far away from the understanding what's happening. So most of the people in Lithuania, when we talk about governmental institution, will say Bitcoin is the future. Yes, okay, maybe, but the maybe is the main angle. When we talk about FinTech, so nobody's saying maybe. FinTech, they understand that it's natural, and the central bank represents a position, and the finance ministry also, they're saying this is awesome things to do. So they're a bit skeptical about things which is still undercovered, but when we talk about the modern FinTech industry, it's already here, and I think it's a good opportunity to do a lot of different stuff like payments, like a peer-to-peer lending. It's already happening. People out of the bank just making startups, and we have some seeds funding who are trying to establish this market.
Cool. So now coming back to startups, right? So apparently CoinGate is a really interesting company, and as I understand, you're like probably the most technical person in this panel. So what makes you think that you could build like a big business here in Lithuania on the Bitcoin scale? Like what gives you the confidence of working? Why you chosen that area as a startup?
Well, I chose this startup because I'm fascinated by Bitcoin as a technology, and I always wanted to work in a company which works with Bitcoin. So our company is a Bitcoin payment processor. What we do is we help businesses to process Bitcoin payments, and the biggest worry that businesses have when they want to accept Bitcoin is the price volatility. What will they do with those Bitcoins? What if the price drops like 10% in a day and they lose that money? So we take that risk on ourselves,
Right.
and we fix the price in euros or dollars, and in real time we calculate how much Bitcoins the customer has to pay, and we pay the business in euros or US dollars. And most businesses which accept Bitcoin in Lithuania do it via our company, CoinGate.
You know what? I'm very curious. Apparently, the one area in the Bitcoin startups which is like really sensitive is how do you comply with all the regulations, which are like in most cases in the gray area. So it's unclear many things. Do you feel secure, safe, or totally the opposite, unsecure?
Well, it is, I think, quite a big problem yet because, as you said, it's a gray area. So whenever we think of a new feature or something, first thing we do, we consult a lawyer so that we would not break any regulations or any laws. So I'm not a lawyer myself, so I couldn't comment more on that aspect. But of course, we try to abide by all the regulations, and it would be great if they would be more clear.
Do you come across any like hard roadblocks, like some regulations or attitudes or views that actually like stop you from continuing and growing your business?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think the biggest block that those regulations don't exist, so it's like a limbo, a legal limbo. It would be best if there would be some kind of regulations. Of course, it would be best if they would not be very restrictive and very harsh. But now, even from business's perspective, they often don't have confidence accepting Bitcoin because they say, well, it's not regulated, and they don't trust Bitcoin and Bitcoin companies because of that.
If you were to be able to ask one thing, say Lithuanian government, central bank, or the authorities to help you with your business, what would that be?
Well, I would say that do not try to make the regulation overly restrictive, and do not try regulate Bitcoin companies the same way as you regulate other financial companies, because it's completely different technology. And if you would have regulated Skype in the same way as you regulate telephone companies, then today if you would want to make a Skype call, you would probably have to put money into your laptop.
Well, I see Ekaterina laughing, like, what's in her mind? Can you pass it Microsoft? I'm curious, like, what exactly the banks disagree?
The regulation is, we feel that, okay, competition is coming from very different fields, but until all the regulatory pressure is same, it's okay. It would be okay. But if it is very different, that could create a problem. And that could create another dragon. Before we had this financial crisis, otherwise we could, in a couple of years, have the FinTech crisis. And that would be really, really difficult. The economy to survive.
Okay, so you're asking the same people to keeping the regulation the same. But do you agree there still is a lot of gray area? Right. So, okay, so in your case, what would that be the question that you would ask the authorities to actually help the banks to be on the same page as startups?
Be fair.
Be fair. Great. No, as just to summarize, actually, as an investor, I came across a problem as well. So a gray area is bad for everybody because then it's a point of view. So the lawyer might say it's okay because it's not forbidden, but on the other side, they say, no, it's not okay because it's not explicitly allowed. So then you have problems. So I think from all perspectives, including like the banks, the startups, like the parliament members, maybe message could be, let's understand and regulate, because clarity is way more important for business than actually, like what exactly you clarify. It's just like, I guess, operation.
Of course, I agree there need to be regulations, but you cannot just blindly copy those same regulations which work for all businesses and all technologies and just blindly.
Don't copy paste the bugs. Like, okay. Vytautas, I'm curious, like you're building your company actually outside Lithuania, is that right?
Yes or no, because like the most we can do, we try to do it in Lithuania. We have our support, our IT development here in Lithuania, in Vilnius and Kaunas, while for business development, it's more London.
Any other reasons why actually you decided to choose UK as your, like, at least partial operations place?
The key reason is actually the trust, because that's probably the key thing the government of Lithuania or like Lithuania in general should do is more about making the Lithuania name a better brand in finance. Because like that's why we have like UK address as our company address, just because people would trust us. Because when you have Lithuania, when we have like so many business deals, some people were kind of making jokes about Lithuania when like you are in London. If they even ask you, do you have an airport or so on? Because like kind of nobody knows for us. And like when we are like kind of some country in Eastern Europe, which is the bad thing. Well, like it would be better to make a better picture so you can be proud to put Lithuania name next to your company name.
Okay, now I see Antanas smiling a little bit, right? You are representing Lithuania within the European Union. So what's your view? Is that fair assessment of like what Lithuania is like on the European scale?
Well, it's true. We don't have a good slot to the Heathrow airport, unfortunately, which is bad. We used to have it, but somehow we lost the slot during this bankruptcy. Look, we are challenged, but I think Lithuania at the same time are quite ambitious. And if I'm visiting some of the FinTech service centers, I visited Danske Banks and others this week, and I see people full of enthusiasm and full of momentum. And I think in terms of competency, in terms of hungriness, I think we're there. We do miss maybe sometimes to believe that Lithuanian is a good quality, and we should love to have Lithuanian quality as a brand in Europe and the world. And I will definitely aim to achieve that. I think Lithuanians are very competent. We have good strategic thinking, and I think this is the pitch we have to do. Estonians have done a very good job talking about it, and the more our politicians talk about it all over the world, about Lithuanians are very successful, especially in FinTech. That would be great if our central bank regulators are also ambitious and taking a bit more risk than others, because we will have to take some risk with regulation and with the way we perceive things, if we're to give startups a chance. Because we are behind, you know, our GDP is significantly behind the rest. And for us to have a breakout, we will have to have some positions that we take where we do take some extra risk. And there's no other way we can catch up in a significant leap forward. So we will have to have some sectors, and I think FinTech is one sector where we can really be aggressive and have a very strong position, very good regulation that's helping businesses, not hurting businesses. And I think that this is the big approach of some of European member states, and especially Lithuania, is that we perceive the authorities as someone trying to catch someone doing the wrong thing, and we should start in terms of preventing, assisting, and helping businesses prosper and develop. And if we can change the language and the way we meet people who come here and speak to us, then we will have a leap forward. I think we're close. I'm very much for shared economy, and I think, you know, this blockchain and big data, which is associated with it, will definitely develop a lot of new knowledge. And I would love this knowledge to be in Lithuania, because this is something that we can export like oil, except we can keep exporting more and more. It's our knowledge, you know. It's just something we build here and we export, and this is the way we should look at it. This is a huge opportunity, and I think we do really need to have a position in this area, a world position.
Ekaterina is smiling again. What's...
No, I just wanted to say that the risk is a very important aspect, and I believe that Mike Shin was mentioning that the risk is very much welcomed, right? But it's not in the banks, and sometimes, well, the regulator actually, from one hand, protects the bankers, the traditional bankers, but from the other hand, it prevents them from investing into the more risky, fields. And that is very important for us to find the right balance, you know, for the economy.
Cool. So I think we have a couple minutes for questions from the audience. You can address to each of the... oh, already hands. Please.